The Bank of England cuts interest rates to 0.25%, the lowest ever, to see off a recession. There's a £70 billion boost in cash too, as fears of a slowdown are reflecting a big cut in predicted economic growth. The governor says the banks now need to help customers.
The banks have no excuse with today's announcement not to pass on this cut in bank rate.
Bank's decision mean for savers and for businesses? I'm live at a factory in Stoke-on-Trent to find out.
Also this lunchtime, one dead, several injured in a random knife attack in central London. The police rule out terrorism. The nation's online addiction, a surge in phone, laptop and tablet use leaves many looking for a way to log off. And a royal glitch as Andy Murray waves the flag for Britain at the Rio Games.
Yeah. OK, Andy, just drop it a little bit, Andy, because we're blocking HRH. That's great, that's brilliant.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Alistair Stewart.
Good afternoon. The Bank of England has made money cheaper, credit easier and pumped billions more in cash into the UK economy. Interest rates were cut to a record low of 0.25%, and the bank shocked the experts when it cut its prediction for economic growth next year from 2.3% to just 0.8%. The governor said the banks must pass on the cut to their customers. His message was clear. He wants businesses to borrow more to invest and customers to spend more in the shops and showrooms. If they and we don't, the Bank of England thinks there is a real prospect of the country sliding into recession. Our reporter Sally Lockwood has more.
Interest rates have been at a record low for the last 7 years, and today the Bank of England cut them even further to a new historic low.
At its meeting yesterday, the MPC agreed an exceptional package of measures comprising, first, a 25 basis point reduction in bank rate to 0.25%.
The city saw the pound fall following the announcement. The referendum vote in favour of leaving the European Union has created a lot of economic uncertainty, with manufacturing already down and the construction industry slowing. Cutting interest rates is a way of stimulating the economy, but what does it mean for people across the country? Well, this business in Birmingham makes hoses and tubes, and an interest rate cut will impact their trade.
The effect on imports, obviously the pound will go down in value. And imports will cost us more. Conversely, exports will benefit from the lower pound. So really it's a double-edged sword and one will counteract the other, I think.
For an employee wanting to remortgage their house, it's good news. Lower interest rates means cheaper borrowing. But for the worker nearing retirement, any interest on savings or a pension will go down.
I am looking, eventually at retirement and obviously building up a pot of money. But unfortunately, because of the interest returns at the moment, it's not building.
Along with the change in interest rate, the Bank of England also announced it will restart quantitative easing, where money is pumped into the economy from the buying of government bonds. It will also provide £100 billion for a new term funding scheme, which helps banks lend money at lower rates to households and businesses. But some analysts say the Bank of England can't fix the economy on its own, and Labour is calling for the government to step in.
The Chancellor has said that he won't reset the economic rules of this government or the economic strategy until the autumn. I think that's too late. That means Britain's on hold for the next 6 months or so, and we could be in a situation where the government needs to react now.
The bank believes its action will steer the country away from another recession, but it's a gloomy outlook. Today it also announced its biggest ever cut to growth forecasts. Unusual measures are being taken at uncertain times. Sally Lockwood, ITV News.
And our business editor Joel Hills is live outside the Bank of England for us this lunchtime. As Sally just reminded us there, the governor thinks we can avoid a recession. Does that mean those pre-referendum warnings were a bit overdone?
No, I don't think you can say that. This is all about damage limitation. The Bank of England's clear that we avoid a recession precisely because of the action it's taking, a cut to interest rates and an economic stimulus of up to £170 billion. Now, the uncertainty thrown up by the referendum means that, as Mark Carney says, some of the risks identified before the vote are now coming to pass. A very large economic shock, as he puts it. Growth will be lower, Alistair, over the next 3 years, substantially so. What will that mean? It will mean unemployment is likely to be higher than it otherwise would be. We're likely to see a squeeze on living standards as prices rise faster than pay, which is likely to be compressed. And we're likely to see house price falls too. This is not a repeat of 2008. The Governor of the Bank of England very clear about this, but it will be painful.
He's also absolutely clear in a message directly to the lenders and the banks, you will pass on this cut, will they?
He believes they'll have to. Look, this does throw up a headache for the bank. Interest rates are so low that a further cut makes it difficult to pass those on. But the Bank of England's mindful of that. It's designed its response specifically. 5.5 million people, Alistair, in Britain have a mortgage that is on a variable rate, and Mark Carney made it clear he expects those repayments to fall immediately.
Let me say this about the banks. The banks have no excuse with today's announcement not to pass on this cut in bank rate. And they should write to their customers and make that point.
Spare a thought here, though, for savers. They are the victims here, the obvious losers, the people who've done the right thing, who've worked hard and set money aside. Money in the bank in the months ahead is probably likely to lose value. Pension returns, annuity rates, already derisory, are likely to get even lower.
Joel, thank you. Well, as you saw at the top of the programme, our correspondent Damon Green has spent the morning at a factory in Stoke-on-Trent. He joins us live now. So what's the reaction you're picking up there from the folk who work in Stoke?
Well, certainly no surprise. I mean, manufacturing, a cornerstone of the British economy, it always has been, and no factory is more traditional than a pot bank in Stoke-on-Trent. This is Dudson's in Stoke. They manufacture high-end tableware for the hotel and restaurant industry. Chances are, if you eat a meal in Nando's, you're eating a plate out of this factory. It's been a family firm since 1800, and it's run at the moment by Max Dudson. Now, Max, you're making significant investment in your business this year. Will a change in interest rates help you to make that investment?
Well, absolutely. Anything that eases the availability of funding and the cost of funding has got to make businesses more encouraged to invest.
And you talk about confidence, you talk about the success of a business. It's all based on confidence. Now, how will a reduction in interest rates feed into the confidence of business in this area?
Well, inevitably it's disposable spend. So in our business, if you eat out in a restaurant, you're going to use our products. And the cost of borrowing for the general consumer or other businesses means they're more likely to invest in projects, or they're more likely to go out and eat a meal out.
The weakness of the pound has also helped you. You export a lot, don't you, from here? So has that helped you at all?
Yeah, we export about 70% of what we produce all over the world. So clearly a weakening of the pound does make us more competitive in a number of markets, which is one of the major reasons why we're trying to invest in the business and create jobs.
Now, one of the jobs is, Martin Lewis, you work on the production line here. You were uncertain about the effects of Brexit. What do you feel, does this bear out what you thought about the uncertainty in the market?
Yeah, I think in the short term there'll be uncertainty, but I think eventually it'll even itself out.
And as a mortgage holder, you potentially would see a benefit from this, yes?
Personally, I have a fixed rate, but I know people are looking to get into the mortgage market, and I think it'll help them. Any reduction will help them.
Well, it could be a help for Martin, it could be a help for many of the people here, but if you have money in the bank you're trying to save, it won't help you at all.
Damon and your guests, thank you very much. Well, joining me live in the studio now is Charlotte Haddington, who is a financial analyst from Fidelity International. How worried should people be, like those who Damon was just talking about, given the picture that the governor painted in announcing these moves?
Well, I think there's clearly winners and losers out of this. So this is good for borrowers, those on floating rate mortgages who will see their rates drop, and also those looking to fix their mortgage going forward. But it's not such good news for savers who have had very low rates for a while now, and that looks set to continue.
So apart from people who've got mortgages that may come down, I mean, the governor again made it clear this is about avoiding a recession, which he thinks is doable. Will folks start to feel better off in their household incomes, in their pockets and their purses?
Well, you know, some people will. It's hard to imagine in this environment where businesses are sort of lacking confidence that necessarily wages will rise. But some people will see the benefit really through the lower borrowing costs. Yeah.
Savings, and again, the governor talked about it, Joel talked about it. It is a perpetual nightmare for people who, as Joel Hill put it, trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, this actually could encourage some savers to look to an alternative investment, you know, away from cash and to other assets that potentially could give them a higher return.
Because simply keeping in the bank, if it goes one step further, would cost them money.
Well, I think it's unlikely to cost them money at this stage. I mean, Carney's already said that he doesn't have a huge interest in going down the negative interest rate route. But certainly, you know, interest income on cash is very, very low.
Are you optimistic that we'll avoid a recession?
I think, you know, we have to see what happens and how the data pans out over the next few months.
Financial experts caution. Charlotte, good of you to come in. Thank you very much indeed. So we've heard this interest rate cut will have an impact on savings, mortgages, pensions. So for more on what it might mean for you, head to itv.com/news. And still to come this lunchtime, Andy Murray's flag moment and how he eclipsed a princess. Plus why millions of us are having a digital detox. But first, police investigating last night's stabbing attack in central London have said there is no evidence of terrorism or that the suspect was radicalised. An American woman died at the scene and 5 other people were injured when the suspect, a 19-year-old man of Somali-Norwegian origin, allegedly attacked people at Russell Square. He has been arrested on suspicion of murder. Our correspondent Juliet Bremner reports.
Covered by a forensic police tent, a woman's body lies in the heart of London. The woman, an American tourist thought to be in her 60s, and 5 others were stabbed as they walked through the streets of the capital shortly after 10:30 last night. The man wielding the knife was arrested after officers fired a taser at him.
There were numerous policemen leaning over what appeared to be a deceased body. We saw in the process of being covered up, and just a commotion with police and putting the tape up, and just looked like a sign of pandemonium.
Initially, police thought that there may be a terrorist motive, but this now appears to have been ruled out.
All of the work that we have done so far increasingly points to this tragic incident as having been triggered by mental health issues. At this time, we believe it's a spontaneous attack and that the victims were selected at random.
The 19-year-old man believed to be responsible for the attack has been identified as a Norwegian national of Somali descent. He's under arrest on suspicion of murder. Just one of the victims, who included 2 women and 3 men, is thought to come from the UK. The others were visitors from Australia and Israel. Fernando, who wants to remain anonymous, was cycling past moments after the stabbing and watched attempts to save the victim's life.
The Spanish girl that was having her in the lap, trying to talk and to keep her alive, never got any answer back from her. But she said to me before I left that she was breathing still. The policeman arrived giving the first aid.
The bomb attack on a bus during the 7/7 attacks in London happened just a few hundred metres away, reawakening terrible memories for Paula Givner.
That's why I could see by the armed presence that it wasn't a normal incident, especially after, I was here during 7/7 too, so it kind of brought all that, evoked all those memories too, because the bus got blown up just now. I was across the street when that happened as well, yeah.
Already, the street is returning to normal, but London remains on high alert, and it brings into focus recent warnings that everyone must be braced for attacks.
And Juliet is live at the scene of that attack for us this lunchtime. As you were just saying there, Juliet, precisely the type of attack that the police most fear.
Yes, just a couple of days ago, the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police was warning it was a question of when, not if, there was an attack. Thankfully, last night's incident that happened just behind me was not thought to be terror-related, but there were police here very quickly, armed police at that, and that underlines the commitment that was made yesterday to make sure another 600 additional armed officers would be available for the coming months and weeks. But I must just say, people are being urged not to be too anxious, to try and remain calm and vigilant.
Juliet, thank you. Now, there's no doubt that we're increasingly reliant on the internet in our daily lives, but what may surprise you is just how much time we are spending online. Research by the communications regulator Ofcom has revealed the scale of our internet habits, with a warning that it is affecting our sleep, our jobs, even our relationships. Sangeeta Kandola explains.
As a nation, we are finding it harder and harder to detach from our devices. An online obsession has left us glued to our screens and smartphones. Our digital addiction means we're online until the early hours, spending less time with the family and even neglecting housework. An Ofcom study shows adults spend an average of 25 hours a week online, and this is having a negative impact on our lives. 47% say they miss out on sleep because they can't log off, and 59% say they're hooked on their smartphone or computer. With 1 in 10 logging on to the internet more than 50 times a day, it's hardly surprising 15 million of us have decided a digital detox is what's needed.
And then you spin. And when you spin...
At this retreat in West Wales, the aim of the game is taking a technology timeout.
I do use my phone quite a lot, professionally and also personally. It's quite difficult to limit it though, because there's just a lot of purposes and functions that I use it for.
And the phone is capable of doing lots of things, holding lots of applications. I took it upon myself to limit my use, and the only way to do that is to delete them. So that's what I did last year.
It's not that phones are bad. We need to get that out of the way first of all.
Georgina Jones runs the sessions and says it's about taking people back to basics.
Instead of being connected to each other, we tend to be connected to our phones. So that impact makes people feel that they are less important to your devices, when ultimately the relationships with it that we have are the foundation of our happiness. So it's making sure that we are mindful of our usage.
One clinic at a London hospital with a dedicated technology addiction service says it's a serious problem.
As we have a rehabilitation service for alcohol and drug addiction, we included within that overdependence on technology as well, and technology addiction. It seemed a natural progression and a necessity to meet a need.
The Ofcom survey says if you keep bumping into people on the streets while on your smartphone, it may be time to switch off for a while. Sangeeta Kandola, ITV News.
Russian athletes still waiting to hear whether they can take part in the Rio Olympics are due to find out their fate tomorrow. Following the doping crisis, the country's track and field athletes were banned from competing in the Summer Games. There are still sportsmen and women waiting to hear whether they will indeed be heading home or taking part. Our sports correspondent Ian Payne is here with me. So the IOC meets later today. Will that be the full picture?
Well, we're hoping, Alistair, to get a much clearer picture of what the IOC and the various federations have decided about the fate of the Russians. Let me bring you up to date, because it's changing all the time. So the track and field athletes have all been banned. We knew about that. It's not just them, but 17 rowers and all 8 weightlifters from Russia have been banned as well. They all appealed for the Court of Arbitration for Sport this week. That was rejected. So they're out. And there are, of course, individuals who've had prior drugs offences, and they're out as well. Some good news for Russia, though. This morning, 11 Russian boxers, the entire team, have been cleared to compete. But it's the IOC who have the final say on every single decision, and hopefully we'll know more by their meeting at tea time.
OK. But the picture of the day.
Oh, yes.
Andy Murray, a princess and a flag.
Yeah, Great Britain's photo opportunity for the team turned out to be a bit of a embarrassment. Actually, it was comical, really. Andy Murray was holding the flag. He, of course, will be holding the flag in the stadium tomorrow, and alongside Princess Anne and also Sebastian Coe. And as you saw, didn't quite go right.
Oh, there she is.
OK. Yeah.
That'll have to do.
OK, OK, Andy, just just drop it a little bit, Andy, because we're blocking HRH. That's great, that's brilliant. And then, Andy, just raise the flag up a little bit between the two of you. Just raise the flag up between the two, yeah? Straight up. Yeah, that's it, and down a touch.
Hopefully it'll be all right on the night tomorrow.
Well, Princess Royal seems suitably amused, and the Sports Minister there. Thank you very much indeed. Andy Murray, of course, competing for Team GP if he gets over that lot. And he and all of Britain's other athletes will be making final preparations over the next 24 hours. With an ambitious medal target, they are all hoping that this will be their most successful overseas Olympics yet. Our sports reporter, Amy Lewis, has been speaking to some who are going for gold. She sent this report from the British training camp in Belo Horizonte, Brazil.
With just hours to go until the games begin, this is about balancing training alongside the pressure. Adam Peaty is a world record holder and favourite to get gold in the 100-metre breaststroke.
You can sugarcoat it or hide as much as you want, but anyone going to the Olympics wants to win gold, and to actually be in Brazil and get used to the climate, get used to the time zone is hopefully an advantage that will get over most competitors.
This is one of Brazil's largest cities, but during the Olympics it is British territory. This is just one of 5 bases that Team GB can use in Belo Horizonte before the Games. It is a 6-hour drive from Rio and completely cut off from the public. It has world-class facilities which will be used by hundreds of athletes. James Dasaalu will compete against the seemingly unbeatable Usain Bolt in the 100 metres.
Go to the drawing board and say how we're going to beat Bolt. I'd always say you got to get a good start on him more than anything, which is really important.
Can you beat him?
Can I beat him? I'd like to believe I can, but you know, you just kind of go out there and just got to compete at your best.
Nakoda Davis was a volunteer at London 2012. She's in Rio as an athlete in her own right.
It is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you do have to kind of take that with 2 hands, but I really just want to enjoy the experience because, you know, when I watched it and I was a volunteer, I really enjoyed the experience, and I want to even enjoy it more now that I'm actually competing.
Team GB are aiming to win a record number of medals in Rio at an away games. They say this preparation gives them the best possible chance. Amy Lewis, ITV News.
And that's it this lunchtime. Mary and I will be back at 6:30, but for now, bye-bye.